Hi, so a few things that have been in the news this week. One is with the Overwatch beta, they're introducing voice comms. Now, they've tried to do this in the past. I remember when it first came out, and you tried to use it in a pickup group, in a dungeon. It was a bit crap, really. But they're developing this really for Overwatch. You can imagine when you're in a pickup group, you need to be able to have voice comms for a game like that. So they're trialing this out, and it's the sort of thing that's going to be done through Battle.net, which actually means that you should be able to use it in World of Warcraft if it works out. There's no guarantee of that, but that might be interesting. Whether it would allow you to just use this as standard for when you're doing pickup group, like dungeon raids rather, or maybe it will be a feature in dungeons. Maybe it'll just become more standard that people will use this in all Blizzard games. Who knows? You can only trial this out if you're in the Overwatch beta. It's not a game that interests me particularly, so I've not signed up to that one. So that'll just be a case of wait and see on that one. Turkey, you can get the new Murloc Pet. This was apparently something that was done as a promotion in Asia, but you can now get it everywhere. So if you haven't got your Murloc Pet Turkey, you can now get this in Northrend. There's plenty of guides on how to get this yourself. But get yourself over there and get that one. But one of the main things I want to talk about this week is the Valor Points. Now, it was announced that Valor Points are coming back in 6.2.3 last week, and I just thought it'd be the standard thing, cap of 3,000 Valor Points, which there is, and you can get 1,000 Valor Points a week, which means you get to choose how you want to get your Valor Points. Now, we'd already been told that you weren't going to get it from raiding. You could get it from LFR and dungeons, but not raiding. Like I said, I think they're doing this to kill two birds with one stone. It's their way of, we use the Valor Points to give ourselves item upgrade. We could have used Apexis crystals, but they've decided to go along with bringing Valor Points back into it. Maybe they've decided we're sick of Apexis crystals. And that is what got me to thinking they're doing this to try things out for Legion. We know they want to try and incentivize dungeons, and they're just going for the crude methods instead of some of the more... I mean, I came up with a few interesting ideas. I'm sure other people have come up with some as well. They're not interested in that, it seems to me. They just want to go for the crude methods. So we can't get this from raiding. But the really bad news this week, from my point of view, is there is no weekly cap. Oh, no. So someone's worked out that we can get 4,300 Valor Points a week. And it doesn't matter that there's a cap of 3,000, because what you do is you get your 1,500, upgrade 3 items, and then carry on getting the rest. Well, it doesn't matter how much it adds up to. What you've got to do is everything. Everything that will reward Valor Points, you've got to do. Because if you don't, then in the first week, someone will have upgraded about 9 pieces of gear and will be a much higher item level than you will be. And you will therefore be much weaker in your raid and of no bloody use whatsoever. About as much use as a chocolate teapot. So, yeah, it's got to be done. So what's got to be done? A heroic dungeon every day. That's fine, no problem with that. Every single mythic dungeon each week. Little bit of a problem with that. Don't like that. It's a waste of my time. But you get yourself a group, I suppose you could probably blast through them. You've got to travel to them, of course. There's no queuing up and just getting instantly transported. So, every single wing of LFR. Because, yes, I've got an item level of 726. I really want to be doing... What is there? 3 parts to Highmoor, 4 parts to Blackrock Foundry, and what is it, about 5 to Hellfire Citadel? That's what I want to do, Blizzard. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And the weekly event, whether it be Time Walking Dungeons or... I mean, if it was Mythic Dungeons, we might get away with it because we could combine the two, I hope. Well, we'd have to be able to combine them, wouldn't we? So that might not be as bad then. Pet battles won't count, but everything else will. Which actually means on some weekends I might be... it's one of those things, to get your full Valor Points, you would have to do some PvP. I don't want a PvP. Don't like it in World of Warcraft. What? Really? And people are saying, oh, well, you just do it for a couple of weeks, got everything upgraded. No, you haven't. No. Because you don't just have your 15 bits of gear. You've got multiple trinkets you'll swap behind. You'll upgrade something. Then the next bloody week, you'll coin it on Mythic Waterforged with a socket. And then you've got to then upgrade that. This is a rolling thing. Yes, once you've upgraded most of your stuff, which I would argue takes 3 weeks, not 2, you might not have to get much. You might only need, because you're not going to get multiple items every week of upgrades. So you might only need to do a few things a week just to keep topping it up. But still, that's 3 weeks of having to do all that content, and I don't want to do all that content. I don't mind a few things. I wouldn't have minded it if I could get most of the Valor Points I needed from the raiding I naturally do anyway, which is the content I want to do, and a few dungeons as well. No problem with that. But no weekly cap means I have to do everything that rewards Valor Points. Everything. Ooh. Ooh. By the way, before I forget, hopefully this should be okay. I was accused in a video of wearing what appeared to be a barber's smock. As it turns out, it was just my shirt, and the green screen was doing something funny with the collar. This hasn't got a collar, should be okay. I have no idea of knowing what this looks like with the green screen. I mean, lighting is always very... I've got some lights. They're not necessarily ideal, and there's sunlight coming through here. So it's a bit variable. I can never tell from one viewing to another what it will end up looking like. But at least I don't look like I'm in a barber's chair, I hope, this time. I do need to sit in a barber's chair. I need my hair cutting. But that'll probably be next weekend now. So, yes. But yeah, back onto that. And Blizzard's sort of argument for because people were saying, why can't we get it from raiding? Why can't we get it from raiding? Answer us. And they said, well, we want to push dungeons. Yes, we know. We know you do. I didn't even need to ask that question. It was obviously all about incentivizing dungeons, trying things out for Legion. But why the weekly cap? Why no weekly cap? And they just said, oh, well, it seems artificial having to take 8 weeks to do all this sort of stuff. Does it really? You pains. I really... So I'm going to moan now. I'm going to have a moaning weekend. I'm not happy with Blizzard. In the Legion video I'm going to do in a bit, I'm going to have a right old moan. I don't usually moan. I'm not a moaner much. I am going to this one. But anyway, on to the sort of mainly want to talk about this weekend, which is, again, as we're getting geared up for BlizzCon, we're going to find more things out about Legion. So we're still very much into wish listing. What would we like to see? So with the downtime, I've been playing a few other MMOs and just pottering about. Nothing I do seriously. And I thought I would look at some of the features in some of these games that maybe would work in World of Warcraft. And one of the things I was looking at was Star Wars The Old Republic. A new expansion has just come out. There's a few features in there, big improvements, and maybe some of them, there's some mileage for World of Warcraft, as well as some of the older features in it. Now, one thing people do keep sort of saying about World of Warcraft is, why doesn't it go free to play? And really, there is no point in it going. Why would it go free to play? Even with like 5 point whatever million subscribers, which is loads less than there used to be, it's still loads more than there needs to be before you worry about not getting enough from subscriptions and go free to play. And I think the people are asking for it. There's potentially one of two reasons. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's another reason, put it in the comments. But it's usually either people who either, one, just see that every other MMO goes free to play and it's an inevitability, so why doesn't World of Warcraft? Or two, because they think that free to play is actually free to play. Well, it's not. You can actually spend far more on free to play games than you ever will on a subscription game, because there's always little incentives just to get a few more tokens. And the other thing about free to play games is, if you want to play them properly, you end up getting a subscription anyway. You do not get the full benefit of the game. In fact, arguably, World of Warcraft has the best free-to-play model, because you have to buy the expansion. Well, you sort of have to do that in any MMO anyway, even if it's free-to-play. You buy yourself a month or two's worth of subscription, but then just to get your characters to level cap and get them into gold generation, after which point you can just get the WoW token. you know. So you can actually play World of Warcraft effectively free to play and enjoy the full benefits of the game. So it actually arguably has, if you wanted to actually genuinely play free, and there's never anything that's actually free. You always have to spend stuff even on the free to play games, unless you want to do nothing but log in a city and do bugger all. There is no real free to play anyway. But you look at some of these free to play games. I mean, all of these games would like to have a subscription model. This is the thing. Everyone sort of thinks, well, all these MMOs have free to play models, so it must be the best model. No, they want a subscription model. When Elder Scrolls Online came, when it was about to be released, subscription model, and everyone was going, oh, it's free to play. And they said, no, it's never going to be free to play. This is a subscription model. We're not going free to play. We're not going free to play. It came out. We're not going free to play, subscription. 6 months later, we're going free to play. We're very excited about this. It's very exciting times for Elder Scrolls Online. They do it when the subscription numbers are just not good enough and they think they can get more. Well, Blizzard still get a lot from subscriptions. They get a lot from other things as well. This is what you need to bear in mind. They get so much money from like character transfers and other paid services and mounts and pets from the store. So World of Warcraft as a whole, doesn't matter how many play it, is still very, very lucrative. In fact, arguably, the most lucrative it's ever been. So from the money point of view, from a subscription point of view, sure. From a PR point of view, they would like more subscribers, I think. Even if if you were to sort of, let's say, gain several tens of millions of dollars from subscriptions and lose it from something else, maybe they would prefer that. I don't know. You're making the same overall money, because whenever you get the subscription numbers released, if it's gone down, it's always just bad PR, and people think that the game is going down, and maybe some people stop playing because of that. So what I look at it is, all these free-to-play games have a subscription model, so they must have some incentive for you to subscribe. So maybe there are some features that World of Warcraft could adopt without going free to play, that would nonetheless encourage more people to subscribe instead of just subscribing, leaving, doing the content, leaving for a few months, and then coming back when there's a new content patch. Now, one of the things I thought they could do is a currency system. Now, we have lots of currency systems already. We've got gold, which is our normal system. We're going to have Valor Points again. We've got the time walking dungeon currency. But what if there was a special currency just associated with a subscription? So every month you get, if you're a subscriber, you get these 100 things, 100 credits. And you could use those for various things. There'll be various options for these. Now, another thing Star Wars The Old Republic has is you can spend your currency for that, which you can top up with extra money as well. That's how they get even more money out of you. I'm not suggesting World of Warcraft do that. I would just make it a subscription-only thing. You just get a set, 100 a month. You can't top it up with money or anything like that, although their money man would probably like you to do that. And one of the things they can get in Star Wars is Cartel Packs. You can get these packs, and you open these packs up, and mostly it's just, bits and bobs. It's just standard stuff. You've got some crafting materials in there, a couple of bits of moddable gear, which I'll go on to later. A few bits and pieces. It's sort of okay. If you don't want it, you can sell it. It's fine. But you might get a mount, or you might get something even rarer. And if you don't want it yourself, you can sell it on the auction house. You can actually make quite a lot of gold out of it. Sometimes you just get straight up a load of credits from it as well. So it's like, it's got the mystery box element. It's exciting, the mystery box. It's like in a game show, isn't it, where he says you can have this new Porsche, or you can have what's in the box. The box, I want the box. It might just be a cabbage. Doesn't matter. It's the excitement of the box. So that would be good. And maybe, World of Warcraft, the equivalent is it might have a few crafting materials, might have some flasks, some potions, some food, that sort of stuff, with a chance of a mount or a pet. And stuff that you can only get from there. It's a bit like the trading card game, isn't it? Where you get the trading card game. Some people got them to play. Most people just got them to see if they could get the rare mount. It could have that element in it. That might get people, especially collectors, more interested in keeping a subscription active, because if that's the only way you can get these currency to get these items, maybe it's worth it for those people, even if they don't play the game that much, just for that. But then maybe for other people who aren't so interested in that, you can save up these credits, and after a certain amount of time, it's worth a free character transfer. Because I've already mentioned about raiding, there's a lot of people were struggling to recruit in Mythic raiding especially. And you look on WoW Progress, you can tell there's far fewer people publicly advertising their services. Of course, there's no end of people potentially up for a move but just don't want to say so publicly. They don't want their guild knowing they're looking to move. But in terms of the people who are saying, oh, I need to move, I need to change guilds, or I need to move because my guild's gone tits up, there's not that many. But even of the ones that are, you see some of them are saying, but they're not willing to change realm. Now, some of those people might actually be attached to their realm. I have no idea why these days. With cross-realm and battle tag, you can keep in touch with people. And you can raid across realms now, even with Mythic when the new patch comes out. So there's no need to get attached to your realm, really. It's not like it has a community anymore. You look on the realm forums these days, and there's no community there. So you can only imagine that the main reason these people don't want to change realms is because they can't afford it. Maybe they can just about afford the subscription each month and no more. Well, this gives you an option. You save this up for so many months and you can get a free character transfer. It then makes them available to join other guilds. And again, we might get a bit more. If we can get a bit more movement, we can stop guilds collapsing at a rate of knots. Perhaps. I only say perhaps. But that is, that is something that I would like to see. A currency attached to subscriptions. Now, other features that come out. One of them, as I talked about, moddable gears. They have this system, which wasn't there at launch. I'm trying to think back now, because I only dip in and out. I'm not always sure of when features came in, but I did do the beta on Star Wars: The Old Republic, and this wasn't a feature then. I don't think it was at launch, but it came out quite soon after launch. I think I'm not sure when. But the idea, you can get normal gear that just has stats on it as normal, but you can get other gear that has no stats on it. You just wear it. It's usually for like cosmetic purposes, but it has slots, and you put in mods, and these mods have stats on. So you basically assign the stats for your gear with these mods, and if you get a better quality mod, you just put that in. You just slot that in. It's a bit like gems, and all your stats comes from this. So you can be wearing the same gear at level 1 as to level cap, but you're just changing the mods in it. Now, that system I would quite like. I don't think it's necessarily suitable for World of Warcraft, but it would solve a problem. The problem we're going to have in Legion is we're going to have 3 plate-wearing classes, 3 cloth-wearing classes, 2 mail-wearing classes, and 4 leather-wearing classes. Now, of course, it doesn't, strictly speaking, matter how many classes you've got. What matters is how many want each type of armor in your raid group. And so you can look at it as like, well, that's twice as many want leather as mail. It's not always true, because you usually have multiple shamans, and especially hunters. I mean, at the moment, maybe not so much shamans. You might have 1 or 2 in your raid, but you probably have 2 or 3 or even more hunters. But what you'll definitely have is a lot of leather wearers, and there's going to be even more with demon hunters. So there's going to be a lot more pressure on leather wearers. Now, if there was no such thing as plate, leather, mail, or cloth, you just had all this moddable gear, and you just got mods off bosses and slotted those in, you could argue that would solve that problem. But I don't think it's something that will happen, because, I mean, I remember when Blizzard were talking about this, they have shown awareness that this is going to be an issue with the leather. And they did talk about perhaps making them mail wearers, and then they realised, well, I don't think it would have got very far in the meeting, actually. They have said it wouldn't work, and it wouldn't work. Demon hunters are essentially naked. They wear rags. You're never going to get away with that being male. You could probably argue more like cloth, but that would still leave you with 4 wanting one particular type of armor. But the fact that they've shown awareness of that, and that and when there are ways to get around this, they would rather just deal with it and manage it in their own way, means the model we have for equipment is going to stay as it is, I am sure. And I mean, weapons is the fact that we're going to get artifacts rather than normal weapons is as big a departure from the normal equipment model as I think you're going to get. But there was a change in the new expansion for Star Wars: The Old Republic that might be something worth considering. And what they've done is they've condensed all the primary stats into one. Just one stat now, which they've called mastery. Now, obviously, you can't do that in World of Warcraft because that's the secondary stat. But then you think about it. Well, in WoD now, armor you get has like if it's plate armor, it's got strength and intellect on it. Just one's grayed out according to your spec. Leather has agility and intellect. Cloth just has intellect. So, and all these stats do the same thing. They didn't always. As a paladin, like a retribution paladin, like in the first few years, you would have every stat was useful to you. Strength was still always the most useful. But you got crit from agility. So you needed a certain amount of crit, and you would get a lot of that from agility to be able to stack up vengeance, which was an ability retribution paladins had at the time before it became a tanking thing and then went away completely. You had spell crit from intellect, which was useful. A lot of your abilities were classed as spells as well. So you got benefit from that as well. Whereas now you don't. You only get benefit from one primary stat. Any armor you find that's suitable for your class will have that primary stat on it. Is there any need, when all the primary stats do the same job, to have the 3 different primary stats? Why not just have an overall stat which we call power or something like that? So there's mileage in that. Another thing I quite like, as they've introduced, is there is the possibility of some people getting over 100% crit. And that sort of thing can happen in World of Warcraft as well. Now, what they've done in Star Wars is to say, okay, anything you get above 100% crit will, instead of being wasted as a stat, will instead go on to bonus damage when you crit. Now, I like that idea. So when you go above cap, rather than it being wasted, it goes into something else that's related as well, so that it's still useful. So that I very much like. The other thing, I've mentioned this before, and because I heard about this one coming and I loved it, and it's the idea that happens now in Star Wars Republic. If I am like, let's say I'm level 40, but I go back to the original starter zone, which covers like level 1 to 12, I am dropped down to level 12. Because what happens is when you go to a low level zone, instead of just finding low grey level mobs that are no use to you, your level is dropped down. You don't lose any abilities. You're still that level. You get all those abilities, but your effective level, just like being scaled down for time walking dungeons, is dropped down to what they say is just above the level of that zone. So you're still powerful for that zone. You're not going to get your ass kicked, but your stats are just scaled down to that level. Now that means that you can. There's a couple of advantages. First of all, if you're in a zone, and this happens in World of Warcraft when you're leveling up. And you're halfway through a zone, you're still on a load of quest chains, but they're not going to return very much experience because you've out-leveled them, especially with all your heirlooms and stuff. So you've got a choice. You can either carry on doing those quests and get no experience just for the lore, or you drop them and go to another zone. Well, this way, you just carry on because you're still getting full experience. You'll get experience from anything in any leveling zone appropriate for your level. Now, this could be really good, and they could do it both ways in World of Warcraft. They could scale up and down. They could just let you explore. Go where you like when you're leveling. Go wherever you like. We'll just adjust your level. Whenever you enter a new zone, your level will be adjusted to like one level above the level of that zone. Get whatever quest you like. You don't get any extra abilities for being scaled up, and you don't lose any abilities for being scaled down. It's just your stats are scaled appropriately. And it allows you to completely explore. You can just do what you like, go where you like. But then there's the counter to this. So let's say you want to, as a high level, go back to an old zone just to farm some stuff. And you don't want to spend a lot of time beating mobs up. You actually just want to one-shot them and get them out of the way and get, to get whatever crafting or other things you want out of the way. So there's the possibility of having this as an optional toggle, but then how do you toggle it on and off? That just sounds a bit bizarre to me. But then I thought of a possible solution. What if, let's say this was a feature that was brought in Walls of Draenor. So let's say it existed now. So think about it, like all the stuff up to from level 1 to 90 is all old content. It's before Walls of Draenor. And then the level 90 to 100 is the Walls of Draenor stuff. So what if it was like this? That situation occurred, when you were between level 1 and 90, or up to and including 89. So at those levels, you can go where you like, and your level in terms of stats will be scaled up or down according to the zone that you're in, and you'll be able to get the quests, and you will get rewards again that are scaled up or down according to the level you were when you did them. I'm not saying those rewards will scale up and down when you go to a different zone. They will, stay as it was as such. It's just that they will be, And that happened up until level 90. And as soon as you hit level 90, because what they don't want you to do is to, spend time leveling in Eastern Plaguelands and miss out on the current content zones, because then you're missing out on the story, you're missing out on all the garrison development stuff and all getting all your followers. So they don't want that. So what they say is, as soon as you get to level 90, that feature stops. So if you go to a low level zone, it's a low level zone. You're not going to get experience. You'll beat the mobs up easily, all the rest of it. So it's a feature that only exists up until the lowest level of the new expansion. So in this case, level 90. In Legion, it'd be level 100. That would give you the best of both worlds, because it would mean you'd have to level up the levels you need to level up in the current expansion's content, but for all the previous stuff, you can level where you like, you can go where you like. You don't have to follow this linear path. Do what you like. Much more interest. And there you go. I would like to see that. Can they do that, please? Okay, tell me what you think of that. Now, that's sort of it in terms of a few features I would like to see in the game, and I would like to have seen. One last little thing I just want to do to finish off is sort of unrelated to this, but it's related to a couple of comments that I had on a video, which I quite like. Sometimes you get a situation where, obviously, when doing videos like this, you'll get people disagreeing. Of course, any two intelligent people discuss anything, you're going to disagree on certain points. You get some people who, and you see this on obviously properly successful YouTubers, they always have a certain number of dislikes. It's like dislike, and it's like, why? Because you don't see anyone saying anything negative. Is the quality of the video poor? No, it's not. So you're just disagreeing. So it's like there's people who go, right, I don't agree with you, but I can't say why I don't agree with you, because that would be too easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, no, you're wrong. La, 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 I am not listening to you. And they basically, the YouTube equivalent of that is just put a dislike on there. Whereas a couple of people have put comments, and that's the more mature way to do it. So I thought I would address those. It's only fair. If people are going to take the time to comment on a disagreement, it's only fair that I sort of come from my point of view and explain a bit further. And this is on like the mythic raiding, and as I was saying in a previous video, how any barriers that there are to people doing mythic raiding are entirely artificial. There's nothing in the game that stops you mythic raiding if that's what you want to do. And the point was being made that, it's Blizzard's problem to make sure that it's only the mechanics that are hard and not the logistics. But I would argue that actually you're asking them to do something that is impossible. And the way I'll illustrate this is with a sport. Effectively, raiding is a team game, and you can liken it to any team game that exists anywhere. And I will liken it to football. Now, when I say football, I mean football, the game where you move the ball around on the field of play with your foot. I know there are a lot of Americans that watch this, and I know you have a different idea about what football is. But yes, I'm talking about football as it is known around the rest of the world and has been known before American football ever came into being. So in football, you can, let's say you just play around with some mates from work. You can just say, oh, do you fancy taking the ball out, or mates in your social circles, and have a kick around the field. Okay, and maybe you do that every now and then, and it doesn't matter how many people agree to do it. You just split yourself into two teams. If there's only like 4 aside, that's fine. Have a kick about with 4 aside. If one day there's loads of people want to do it and you've got 10 aside, you have 10 aside. This is like LFR. You can dip into it when you like, and if you don't want to do it at a particular time, you don't have to do it. You're not harming anyone. It's fun. Then let's say with a group of friends you do a regular thing where you book a pitch. Again, you can have different numbers there. If there's 9 people there one week, you have 5 on one side, 4 on the other. Maybe the one with 5 has the shittest player on it. you know, another week you might have 15 turn up, you have 7 and 8 or something like that, or 12, 6 and 6. It's fine, it's flexible, just, you know, whoever turns up, as long as it's not 100 aside, you're okay. This is very much like normal in heroic raiding, where again it's flexible in terms of size. If one week you can't make it, no problem. If the next week there's loads of people can suddenly make it, fine, we'll just bring the extra. But then at some point, maybe you want to play seriously and you want to play in a league. So now what you have to do is you have to have a set number. You have to make sure you've got enough players. And if you've got more than that number of players, some people are sitting it out. Maybe you have a few extra anyway because you need substitutes. You need to organise things. You need to organise tactics. You can't just have a general kickabout and have a laugh. Obviously, you want it to be fun, but you do need tactics if you want to win. And if you're going to go into a league, you want to win. You need to organise travel to and from the event. There's all sorts of organisation comes into it. And it's no different for raiding. If you want to play it at the serious level, you need to be able to deal with these logistics. It's a natural process. And it's the same for any other sports. And the point is that if with anything in life, if you want to succeed, you have to put effort in. Now, I'm not going to say that effort always rewards success. It doesn't. No one says life is fair. There's people who work really, really hard and get no real reward out of it. That's just bad luck. But what I will say is if there's no effort goes in, that does guarantee failure. Effort doesn't always guarantee success, but lack of effort does always guarantee failure. And sometimes you'll see in work, you might get someone who gets promoted, who's totally unsuitable for the position, totally undeserving, and you think, well, they shouldn't be getting that job. But they still put effort into it. The effort may have been in arse kissing and backstabbing, still effort. If they'd have done nothing at all, they'd have got nothing. And it's the same. It's the same in a game. Now, of course, World of Warcraft isn't a sport that can be played professionally, and it isn't a career. So there are sometimes other things that come into the mix when you're choosing raid guild, like, or your mode of raiding. Sometimes you have friends that say, oh, well, you know, I want you to sort of stay in this guild or something like that. For whatever reason, I have no idea what reason. You can still play with friends without being in the same guild or even on the same realm with them. As long as you're on the same faction. That's pretty much your only barrier, really. So, but, you know, again, if you decide that the reason you're not going to move guilds or the reason you're not going to do something that gets you into mythic raiding, it's a decision you're making. It is actual choice. It's not anything Blizzard's putting in your way, and there's nothing Blizzard can actually do about it, because the only thing Blizzard can do to allow you access to slightly harder content without you putting in the extra effort means that anyone who does put in the effort will find it very unchallenging, very simple. Now, one point that is valid, that someone sort of hinted at, is, like, let's say you do shift work. Now, if you do shift work, you are going to be bitten on the arse, because it might be that, like, 1 week you can make the raids, the next week you can't. 1 week you can make the raids, the next week you can't. In that sort of mode, you can still raid. You wouldn't obviously be able to do mythic raiding, of course you can't, because you're not reliable. In a normal or heroic progress guild, though, you would be, so you can still do that. You can still get out of pug raiding. It just means that as long as you've done the work and you know the fights and you know how to play your class, you will still be a valuable enough member of the raid team to be worth taking. Of course, if your shift work means that you can only basically raid 1 week out of 4, that's a different matter, because you'll just get behind in gear. So then your best chance is probably to join a guild as a social and join alt raids at the weekend or something. But you'd still have that. You know, in a situation like that, they don't mind carrying someone with gear a bit behind, as long as you know the fights, as long as you're not going to wipe them on a mechanics issue. So there are always ways, but you could think about it in any sport. If your work means that you are not a reliable member of that team, you can't play any team sport. Even the football that we talked about earlier would bite you on the arse as well. So, but anyway, that's my justification for that anyway. I thought it's only fair because a couple of people did put comments, so it's only fair that I gave my full justification for that. But there you go. So there'll be a Legion video coming out a bit later with a bit of a rant, only a little bit of a rant. I'm not really a ranter. But until then, I'll see you later.